They ignored your love. They overlooked your loyalty. They dismissed your presence like it was nothing. And the moment you stop trying, they panic. This is your power, and you've been giving it away for free. But the moment you stop chasing, the entire game changes. They don't expect you to go silent. They don't expect you to rebuild. They expect you to beg, to break, to come back with your tail between your legs. So don't. Do this instead, and watch what happens when your absence speaks louder than your effort ever did. Number 1, accept that you were never seen. They never saw you, not fully. They saw the parts that were convenient, the love when it was easy, the help when it benefited them, the loyalty when it cost you everything and them nothing. You gave and gave and gave. You adjusted your schedule. You swallowed your pain. You bent your standards. And for what? So they could keep you on standby, like an emotional vending machine. Push a button, get affection. Push another, get attention. But when you needed them, they vanished. Or worse, they stayed, but looked through you like you weren't there. Accept it now. Not everyone you love will love you back. Not everyone you show up for will show up for you. And not everyone who smiles at you gives a damn about your soul. That hurts. But pain is not the enemy. Illusion is. The illusion that if you give more, they'll wake up. The illusion that if you hold on longer, they'll change. They won't. Because if someone couldn't see your value when you were giving them your best, they're not blind. They're just comfortable. And comfort kills respect faster than hatred ever will. Number 2, the power of walking away without announcement. You don't need to explain. You don't need to warn. You don't need to tell them you're done. You walk. Quietly. With all your dignity intact. Because the strongest message is no message at all. They expected drama. They expected begging. They expected one last cry for closure. Give them none of it. Why? Because people don't wake up from noise. They wake up from silence. When you go silent, the echo becomes deafening. They'll check their phone. Nothing. They'll scroll your socials. Ghost town. They'll reach out, and you don't bite. Now suddenly, the same presence they overlooked is the same presence they can't stop searching for. They didn't value your peace when it was offered. But now that it's gone, they're suffocating. Because silence isn't absence, it's power. It means that I don't owe you an explanation for healing. I don't need to justify reclaiming my energy. I'm not seeking validation. I'm seeking myself. And when you do this right, it drives them insane. They'll pretend they don't care. They'll fake indifference. But deep down, their mind is spiraling. Did I go too far? Why aren't they reaching out? Who are they talking to now? How did I lose control of this? You didn't say a word. You didn't burn bridges. You just stopped bleeding for people who never offered a bandage. And that decision? That's what flips the power dynamic instantly. See, when you confront someone who never valued you, they don't listen. They defend. But when you remove yourself, they're forced to sit alone with the weight of who they were to you and what they lost. You're not giving them a lesson. You're giving them absence, and that's a language their ego can't ignore. No closure, no explanation, just disappearance, with self-respect in both hands. That's how you win. Number 3, rebuilding your identity without needing them. The most dangerous version of you is the version that realizes you never needed them in the first place. You thought they were your piece. You thought they were the missing piece. But what they really were was a mirror. And not the kind that reflects truth. The kind that distorts it. You saw yourself through the lens of their validation. You measured your worth by how much they responded to your presence. And when they ignored you, You felt invisible. But now that part is over, because you're done begging for love from the emotionally bankrupt. It's time to rebuild, and this time, without them in the blueprint. You rebuild your identity by doing what they couldn't. You show up for yourself, fully, not with empty affirmations, but with the discipline to become undeniable. You stop asking if you're enough. You become someone so grounded, no one's absence can shake your core. Start with your voice, not the voice you used to soften for them, the voice you silenced to avoid pushing them away. Bring it back. Say what you mean. Speak without apologizing for your intensity. Your standards are not too high, they just weren't ready to meet them. Next, reclaim your time. How many hours did you spend waiting for a reply? Replaying conversations? Second-guessing yourself after every disagreement? Take that time and give it to your vision. Your body, your business, your peace. The silence they gave you? Turn it into structure. They fed you uncertainty. Now you live with absolute clarity. You will never again make someone your home when they only saw you as a vacation. Rebuilding doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt. It means acknowledging that it did, and still choosing to rise without revenge. Because healing is not about forgetting what happened. It's about no longer needing it to be different. Let them sit in the version of you that tolerated, that chased, that gave, that waited. They don't get the next version, the version that doesn't reach, the version that doesn't explain, the version that leads from self-sufficiency, not emotional scarcity. When you rebuild without them, they lose the power to ever define your value again. And that is what freedom feels like. Number 4, emotional control, the real revenge. You want to get even? Don't shout. Don't post. Don't try to prove anything and just control your emotions. That's the one thing they never expected, and the only thing they'll never recover from. Because emotional control is the quietest, cleanest, and most lethal revenge. When you no longer react, they lose every button they used to push. They come with passive aggression. You respond with silence. They test your anger. You answer with calm. They try to bait your old self. But that person doesn't live here anymore. That's real power. Not screaming, not clapping back, not trying to show them you've changed, but simply no longer being available for emotional games. See, most people are addicted to reaction. They expect you to break. They want the satisfaction of seeing they still affect you. Don't give them the performance. Let them watch the trailer, but not the film. They gave you inconsistency. You give them absence. They gave you drama. You give them stillness, because you don't owe anyone access to your nervous system. Your emotions are no longer public property. That's what Stoicism teaches at its core. You may feel deeply, but you express with clarity, not chaos. You may still hurt, but you don't self-destruct to prove it. And here's the truth no one wants to hear. They will regret losing you the moment you stop trying to be understood. Because emotional control sends a different message. I no longer need your apology. I've forgiven you, but I've also outgrown you. I'm too focused on building a future to argue about the past. And that hits different, because most people know how to deal with anger, but they have no defense for indifference. None. So you stay composed. You take the high ground, not because you're weak, but because you're done with the mud. You rise above the noise, not to be better than them, but to be better for yourself. This is your revenge. You stayed silent, you stayed strong, you stayed centered, and while they spiral trying to get a reaction, you've already moved on, unshaken, unreachable, untouchable. Number 5, let them feel the weight of losing you. You want to leave a mark? Don't chase them. Don't explain yourself again. Don't try to convince anyone of what they had. Just let them feel it. Let them feel the loss they created. Let them sit in the silence they once fed you. Let them taste the same emptiness they left you in night after night. Except now there's no one filling the space back up. Because when you walk away without burning anything, the only thing that burns is them. They thought you'd always be there. They mistook consistency for weakness. They confused your patience with powerlessness. They didn't realize that what they kept overlooking was holding their life together, and when you leave, it doesn't hit all at once. It's gradual, it's haunting. It starts in the quiet. The moment they reach for their phone out of habit, and remember, you're not there anymore. It hits when their new conversations fall flat, when their options can't match the energy you gave freely. It hits when they look back and realize they weren't just different, they were rare. And here's what's powerful. You didn't have to do anything to make that happen. You just had to stop giving. Because people don't feel the absence of someone they didn't value until that absence starts exposing the void they pretended didn't exist. They'll scroll through your old messages, listen to old voice notes, replay that last moment in their head again and again. Not because they want closure, but because they can't believe they had you and still let you slip. They'll reach out eventually, they always do. Not because they've changed, but because the silence became unbearable. And when they do, you won't need to ignore them out of anger. You'll ignore them because the person they're trying to reach no longer exists. The old version of you? Gone. The version that over-explained. The version that begged to be understood. The version that gave unconditionally to people who only knew how to consume. That version doesn't answer anymore. Not out of spite, out of evolution. And that silence? That's your closure. That's your revenge. That's your legacy. Let them feel what it's like to lose someone irreplaceable. Not by proving it, but by becoming it. You never had to punish them. Your growth did it for you. You never had to yell. You never had to fight. You never had to prove a thing. Because your evolution is louder than their excuses. You don't need revenge. You don't need their apology. You don't need to hear "I was wrong," because deep down, they already know. And what they know haunts them. They watched you give your all. And they chose to stay blind. They ignored what was rare, because they thought it would always be there. Now they know better. But it's too late. Because while they stayed comfortable in your presence, you became unreachable in your absence. That's what growth does. It silences the noise. It sharpens your vision. It closes the door that was always open and locks it without bitterness. Because true strength is not in confrontation, it's in quiet transformation. And now, they can't access you, not because you blocked them, but because you've outgrown the emotional version of yourself who needed them. That's the real ending. They wanted control. You gave them consequences, not through rage, not through revenge, but through rebirth. And that version of you? The one who speaks from peace instead of pain? The one who doesn't flinch when their name pops up? The one who no longer needs to be chosen to know their worth? That version is dangerous. That version is free. And freedom is the one thing they'll never be able to take from you again. If this hit deep, if this reminded you of your power, if you've been sitting in silence, rebuilding in the dark, this is your moment to rise. Subscribe if you're done explaining and ready to evolve in peace. Comment the moment you decided enough was enough. Share this with someone who's been giving too much to people who give nothing back. Like if you've learned that your silence is your final answer. Support this channel so we can continue dropping truth that the world isn't ready for, but needs to hear. By supporting, you help these insights reach those still trapped in one-sided loyalty and emotional addiction. Let's keep building. Let's keep evolving. And let's stay silent where noise used to rule.